Contrary to popular opinion in some quarters, Jesus is not the scriptures. The scriptures is not Jesus. Rather, the scriptures speak about Jesus. Who or what then is the scriptures? Let us consider three categories of the Word of God to find a connection. The first is the written Word of God. The second is the spoken Word of God. The third is the living Word. The first, the written Word of God. This is that which we know as the scriptures or the Bible. 2 Timothy 3:16 tells us all scriptures are given by inspiration of God, profitable for doctrine, reproof, correction, and instruction in righteousness, the written Word of God. The second is the spoken Word of God. This is that which the Word of God which we receive, hear, or perceive from God through His Spirit. The spoken Word of God is the Word of God which we receive, perceive, or hear from God by His Spirit, through His Spirit. Matthew 4 verse 4 tells us, Jesus speaking, then He answered and said, it is written, man shall not live by bread alone, but by every word that proceeds out of the mouth of God. Spoken word, that which we hear, perceive, or receive from God, but time, different from the written word. The third is the living word. The living word. The living word is God Himself, made manifest in the person of Jesus Christ. John chapter 1 verse 1, in the beginning was the Word, and the Word was with God, and the Word was God. Further clarity, John 1:14, and the Word became flesh, and the Word became flesh, and dwelt amongst us, and we beheld His glory, as of the only begotten of the Father, full of grace. The written Word, the spoken Word, and the living Word. Now let us gain further insight by considering response and encounter with these three categories of the Word of God. There are required responses to these three categories. The required response to the written Word of God is a committed daily meditation on the written Word. That's the required response to the written Word. A commitment to meditation on the Word of God daily. The required response to the spoken Word of God is discernment, proper discernment, faith, and prompt obedience. The required response to the spoken Word of God is discernment, proper discernment, then faith and prompt obedience. Then the required response to the living Word, who is Jesus. The required response to the living Word is reverence and total submission. Reverence and total submission. Now let's talk about encounter. Encounter with the three categories of the Word of God. Encounter with the three categories. Encounter with the written Word produces faith and transformation. A consistent encounter with the written Word, the scriptures, produces faith and transformation. Encounter with the spoken Word. Encounter with the spoken Word produces results, miracles, results, miraculous results, such as in the case of Moses. He heard the word from God at the Red Sea. Go forward, say to the children of Israel that they go forward, stretch forth your rod. That was a spoken word that came directly beyond the scriptures, but in alignment with the scriptures. The word came, he acted on the spoken word from God, and he produced miracles, water on the rock, as we see later on. Now, encounter with the living Word, Jesus. Encounter with the living Word produces conversion, as we see in the case of Paul, who was formerly Saul, on his way to Damascus. Conversion, in rare cases, conversion. Secondly, encounter with the living Word, Jesus, produces an elevation in the realm of the spirit. And elevation. Those who have been privileged to encounter God directly, Jesus directly, they had the result of elevation, spiritual elevation. Now, let me say this. There are two kinds of encounters with Jesus, direct and indirect. That's my choice of words, for want of words. Direct and indirect. The indirect encounter with Jesus is that in which we perceive his presence, probably in worship, probably in prayers, or in fellowship with the brethren, because he is there in our midst. We perceive his presence and we are beneficiaries of his grace. Then the direct encounter with Jesus is that in which a person or a group of persons see the form of Jesus. It can be through a dream vision in the physical, in his appearance. So that produces conversion, it produces transformation and elevation in the spirit. When Jesus comes to a person in direct encounter, it usually causes an elevation for such a person. Usually causes an elevation for such a person. These are the three categories of the Word of God. Do have a wonderful day.